different type of panel that I wanted to do today because I think it's important that women and men in the room, no matter what your background, what you're thinking of in the future, discuss this topic. So we are going to be talking today about fertility and about pregnancy, and I couldn't have the better guests on here with me to discuss this. So I'm currently 30 weeks nearly pregnant, so that's, yeah, 7.5, anyway, it's a long time now. Got 10 minutes to go. To my right is one of my gorgeous friends, television personality, model, businesswoman, founder of Results with Lucy, all over girl boss, also heavily pregnant and has just come all the way today. Lucy Mecklenburgh, so we've got Lucy here, and then we have Charlotte Stirling-Reed, again, dear friend, registered nutritionist, specialising in maternal, infant and child nutrition, and another congratulations because you're expecting your second baby as well. So yes, this is our wonderful panel. Could not be more aptly suited. So I think we'll start, as you've got the mic, Charlotte, we'll start with you. When you were growing up, was it kind of a case of, did you think getting pregnant would happen easily? Because I know that I didn't think of those sorts of things. You're always told how to avoid getting pregnant, men and women. Be careful, rather than actually getting pregnant.
100%, I would say I didn't think about it. It didn't even cross my mind until I started trying for a baby, and then you start thinking, okay, I'm going to try for a baby. I just think you don't have any expectations at all. And I think that actually is a bit of a problem when it comes to nutrition, because the nutrition in our bodies before we get pregnant actually has a really big impact. And there's a lot of research around intergenerational kind of nutrition, and it's really significant. So really, in the ideal world, we have teenagers who are really considering what they're eating and their diet, so that when they do become pregnant, they're already in the best place, but that's not reality. So yeah, absolutely, I didn't think about it at all.
No, and I think another thing it goes to show, and I know, Lucy, you can touch on this as well, is that the minute if you are fortunate enough to get pregnant, because on average it can take couples, they say a year or more now on the NHS, I believe, but the minute you do fall pregnant, your diet kind of goes out the window a little bit. Luce, do you want to touch on your experiences in your first trimester?
The beige diet. So 12 weeks of everything that was beige, chips and pasta, toast, cereal, everything that I wouldn't actually normally really eat.
Yeah.
And then you have this overwhelming sense of guilt because you think, well, I have a really great diet normally. I don't go one day without vegetables. And now I'm pregnant and I'm looking after this amazing human being of mine, and I'm eating absolute rubbish.
But that's what's so refreshing, is seeing someone in the public eye, because I know you get bombarded with messages. Obviously, you're a well-known face in the UK, and it can be very difficult to manage people's opinions, especially when it comes to what you eat.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think especially with nutrition when you're pregnant, because there's such mixed messages. I know we've spoke about this a lot. I post an egg and it's like, you can't eat a ruddy egg. I'm like, yes, you can. And you can't have this, you can't have. And actually, I think you have to take control. You have to do the research, and every country's different as well. There's so many different rules but yeah.
And that's the thing, Charlotte, if you could delve into just what nutritional stores we want to be building up, and the fact it's 50-50 men and women. Let's just put that one out there.
Very true. I think that's such a good point that you said, that actually to help relieve you a little bit. Do you know what? I find it so fascinating. Every time I read about fertility and the human body when it's growing a baby, it is fascinating, because actually a lot of what is growing your baby is your body's stores. So actually, if you ate a really healthy pregnancy before you got pregnant, then your body will be utilising all those stores to help create your baby. So your omega-3, folic acid or folate in the body. So actually what we've eaten before does really, really matter. That's not to say that what you eat during pregnancy doesn't matter at all. Of course it does, but we all are human, and absolutely, I've had the same. This time around in my pregnancy, I have wanted toast and pasta. So I've just been trying to bulk my toast and pasta out with extras.
Crumpets, I went for a whole week of crumpets and Subway sandwiches.
But I think we have to take the pressure off ourselves a bit, because I think it can be really, really tough for us to, be pregnant and trying to go through with that. Last time, I will hold my hand up, I was holier than thou pregnant. I was like, this is so wonderful, my hair's glowing, and I'm eating, tomato and mozzarella and avocado every day, and this time round it's been the complete opposite. But your stores before matter, and also remember that it's not going to completely, yes, it can have an impact, but it doesn't mean that your child is going to grow up unhealthy, because that's absolutely not the case.
And one thing to contribute to, if anyone in this room is thinking of it one day, or if you can, or you can't have children, that's something that's equally very important to discuss, that female health is it's a big topic at the moment as well. We do have a panel later for women's health taboos. But the stores that a man equally builds up for his sperm quality is important. It's about the motility, how quickly the sperm can move as much as the quality, because men's sperm rebuild every 90 days, I believe. I think it's 90 days, whereas women, we're born with a bank of eggs that we have for life. So it's a very different process. And I think exercise, Luce, you run Results with Lucy, which is an incredible platform, and I love coming down to work with you guys. It's so much fun. Do you find that there's still a lot of myths around working out for getting pregnant and equally being pregnant?
Yeah, I think there's still a massive stigma, and I know from social media I've had a lot of hate for post and workouts. And of course you have to do your research, you have to adapt your workouts. You can pretty much do the same till 13 weeks and then it has to change. But I don't know why you'd want to do a crunch anyway, personally, or a burpee. It's great getting rid of those. But I think there's a lot of mixed messages, but I think it is changing. And social media, there's a lot of positives and negatives about it, but the positive thing about social media is getting people working out on a platform and hundreds, if not millions of people seeing it. And I think it's so important. And for me, it's my mental health pregnant, because you do not feel like yourself at all. And getting up and doing a little workout, as soon as I hit 13 weeks, I could train again because my sickness stopped and I had a bit more energy and I felt like me again, and that just changed my pregnancy completely.
And Charlotte, did you find that, because you said your first pregnancy, this is very interesting, was like the perfect pregnancy. So did you get that morning sickness in the first 12 weeks?
No, I honestly can say that I had no symptoms whatsoever in my first pregnancy. The only thing I had is I'm sorry. I promise it hasn't been like that this time. In the last trimester, I had some acid reflux, and I swam through it. And then I remember thinking, oh, I definitely want to be pregnant again. And then this time it hit me. So I've really felt it. So it just shows how different it is. And I haven't changed anything about me. I'm a bit older, I'm a bit more tired because I've got a toddler. But apart from that, nothing's changed.
I mean, if we talk about the nutrition and the importance of getting it right, I'll never forget. So I went to one of Charlotte's lectures. This was a long time ago. It was before I looked into this pre and postnatal area of nutrition, and it was at Twickenham Uni, St Mary's. And Charlotte gave a talk where she talked about the importance of preferences that can influence what your child will like the taste of. Could you delve into that?
I find it fascinating still. I love the topic, but the foods that we eat actually flavour the amniotic fluid that our baby is surrounded in. So we know from research that let's say, for example, if a mother drinks lots of carrot juice during pregnancy, and again, there's been lots of studies on this, when the baby is born, they are more likely to accept and enjoy the taste of carrots than a baby who hasn't been exposed to that. And the same as well during pregnancy. Previously, they've injected bitter fluids into the amniotic fluid and noticed that a baby will reduce the amount of fluid that they swallow, whereas if it's a sweet fluid injected, they would increase the amount they swallow. So what this basically shows us is that food preferences are already innate, so children are born with preferences already, but those preferences can be adapted by what we eat to some extent. So it is absolutely fascinating, and that's not to scare you, because you've still got lots of opportunity to flavour your baby's diet when they are born and when they are weaning as well, but it's just fascinating that it does make a difference.
it's all these kind of knowledge bombs, and I think just knowing that what you eat before, definitely before even trying, can also influence everything, your stores, just being very, very aware of that. And Lucy, you've mentioned that the kind of things that you experience in the media, like, oh, I can't have eggs, or oh, there's a tea. I remember you asking me about a tea as well. You still, they've said I can't have.
Do you know what? There were so many. There was tonic water. There was certain teas because something that would bring on early labour, and it was actually in a pregnancy tea as well. There was so many, and then I ended up I remember calling you and saying, I don't know what to eat. Am I allowed to eat feta cheese? Am I allowed to eat eggs? Am I allowed to? And I just didn't know. And it's so, and everyone sort of attacks you, but actually it's quite simple. And I think when you relax and you listen to your body, it's quite obvious. And I think.
Well, I ate this is quite controversial sushi throughout the pregnancy.
I mean, if someone put sushi in front of me in the first 12 weeks, I would have punched them in the face.
It's a very strange. I can't describe it. You feel like you're not yourself. You're a vessel. You're a different person.
Yeah, you are. You feel completely different, and all the things that I loved, I suddenly absolutely hated. I didn't have any food in my fridge for 2 months. I had no candles, no flowers. I just couldn't have anything around me with any sort of smell. And it is really strange because I think you think it doesn't seem normal because I'm growing something. Why is my body not allowing me to have any nutrition? It's rejecting everything, including water. I couldn't even keep water down.
And this is the girl that has been on Bear Grylls The Island, you know, eating everything. So how you can go from being, oh, I could eat a bit of, you know, whatever I'm adapting to live with in the wild, to that is quite fascinating. Charlotte, what are the key nutritional things that you need to be aware of? What are the things to maybe supplement with? Because supplementation is also something people get a bit scared of.
Good point. I think ultimately when it comes to a diet, first of all, we always talk about what we're not allowed to eat, and that drives me mad because actually we should be talking so much more about all the things that we should include. So when people do feel a bit nauseous on certain foods, I always say focus on the foods that you can eat and that you do enjoy rather than constantly thinking about all the ones to keep out. But ultimately it is just come back to that simple science. You've probably talked about it all day, a general healthy balanced diet. So making sure that you get some whole grains in, focusing lots on fruits and vegetables, eating some proteins and some dairy or alternatives. That's ultimately the crux of it. It's recommended that we do supplement with folic acid for the first 12 weeks of pregnancy and vitamin D throughout pregnancy. Aside from that, it depends on your own diet. So if you're vegan, there certainly are some more things that you would want to look at, such as omega-3 supplements, B12 supplements, and iodine, potentially, either fortified in your foods or as supplements. But actually, on that, you know, a lot of us do go into pregnancy with lower stores because young women tend to have quite low intakes of micronutrients. So actually quite a few of us might benefit from just taking a pregnancy multivitamin. You know, this is a bit controversial because it's not NHS advice. NHS focuses on folic acid and vitamin D. But if you look at the research, if you look at female stores, quite a lot of the proportion of us could benefit from a pregnancy multivitamin. And really, as long as you're just taking one and you're not taking multiple, there isn't a harm of doing so.
100%. It's the little things that we don't think about day to day, and actually you suddenly become acutely aware of it when you start trying for a baby, when you become pregnant. Suddenly nutrition becomes a whole different ball game than you've ever thought of before. But I think talking about not feeling guilty equally for your food choices at this time is very, very important. I remember having a conversation with Lucy where she was ordering crepes late in the evening and I was eating my bagels with cheese late in the evening. It was just, you can't beat yourself up no matter what walk of life or what you're doing about the food choices you make, can you? And Charlotte, equally looking after a toddler at the same time as having a child, has that made the dynamic very difficult?
Oh, it's been, I just did not expect how tough it would be, really. I mean, I still focus on giving Rafi like the most amazing meals, so he still has his lovely balanced meals, but because I've been up and down and on and off food, and, you know, he always gets the best bits and I get the leftovers. But I've been trying to kind of boost my intake, so, you know, especially coming out of the kind of 14, 15 weeks where I started to feel a bit better, I've been really trying to focus on getting those extra nutrients in. But I think with the toddler, it's just more been the exhaustion and the relentless weightlessness, that there just isn't a break until they go to bed, and even then I'm like, right, I'm done now, it's bedtime for me too. So I think that's been tough, but you know, for me, I've focused so much on feeding him good food, so I know he's doing okay, and now I'm starting to think I've got to really pay more attention to myself now that I'm
Yes, you
feeling
do.
better.
You do. That's just it. Life is difficult. Now, Lucy, if we go back to the fitness element a little bit, I want to talk to you about pelvic floor, and I know that we've also got a different approach to things sometimes, which can be really useful. So, how you're thinking about birth is very different, isn't it? If you want to talk about your kind of outlook on it's good.
I think, again, like I said, there's so much information everywhere, and I just think our bodies are designed to give birth. I'm not doing any research, I'm not going to any classes, I'm not doing hypnobirthing, and I know it's really cool, because I think a lot of people I said to, they go, why would you not do that? But I think I just want to see what happens, because if my personality is, if I have a set plan, and most people have a birth plan, or two, if it didn't go to plan, I would, that sense of losing control and, you know, not doing what I said I would do, or, you know, or saying I wanted it all natural, and it was so painful and I did want drugs, I think I'd feel really guilty. So I think if I just want to turn up to the hospital and see what happens, basically. And I think not many people say that now.
No, which is why it's important you are speaking about it, because once again, who are we to say, you know, it's good to have different views and opinions.
Birth plans do not go to plan. I've never heard one that had one in my life. I wanted a water birth. I was crawling on the hospital floor and nowhere near any water.
But I'm still positively thinking in my head it will all be perfect.
Perfect!
Some of the taboo subjects that we've been discussing recently, things like the post-care after having a baby, having the perfect birth. I've been exposed recently to so many devices I didn't even know existed, and as women and men equally need to know about these things, because women have it hard. You have to remember, giving birth is what, in some countries, they have whole care plans for a mum for a month or two afterwards. Most of us here in the UK, straight away it's all about the baby. You've just done something incredibly huge. What were the items on your list that you WhatsApped me yesterday or day before?
You're going to have to help me, baby brain.
The tube, the funnel.
The little wash?
Yes, the wash.
I sent it to Rhiannon. What did you think it was?
I wasn't even sure. She sent me a picture of a device that looked like, it was like an icing device in the kitchen, you know, you ice a cake. It was something that looked
like a water bottle really long.
with
It's
a
to clean downstairs because you can't use toilet roll, apparently. I don't know this is new to me. But there's quite... Oh really? Apparently it's amazing. What else was on my list?
There were the nappies.
The adult nappies, they were interesting. Really lovely, and apparently 6 weeks in those. That's something to look forward to.
Which I don't think anybody really shares or talks about, the fact that you've just been through a serious life-changing thing. Your body has changed, yet you are having to adapt and keep up with everything else. And the men in the room, if you have a cousin, a sister, or anybody, just think, what can I do extra for them at that time? Can I make a cup of tea? Can I support them? Because they're going through a hell of a lot. And it's actually really nice to be able to have the online community that we now have, because there are pros and cons to sharing. The more open we are about the reality of something so natural, the better. And I don't know if you discussed pelvic floor at all with Cecilia, or if you've been doing any exercises, both of you? Or...
I think it's one of those things that you say you're going to be really good at doing, and then you don't do it as much as you should. So I definitely have, and I've done a little bit of Pilates and incorporated pelvic floor. But I think it's that thing again, we're looking after the baby, thinking about the baby so much that we kind of forget about us and actually how important that probably will be afterwards.
Well, yeah, and equally breastfeeding. So Charlotte, if you could just delve into the importance of, this is a topic again that is very individual. There is no judgment on women that can, because some women can't. But let's go into the nutritional aspects of breastfeeding.
Yeah, breastfeeding is incredible. It's amazing. You know, obviously, if you can do it and you want to do it, then definitely do. There's a lot of benefits to breastfeeding for baby. I mean, ultimately, that the milk that you create is created specifically for your baby. It adapts during the day. It adapts depending on whether your baby needs more or less. If your baby is unwell, it will produce the specific antibodies to whatever infection your baby has. It is fascinating. It is a medical marvel, and we have never, ever been able to replicate it. And that's saying something. It is just like a wonderful. Having said that, it's not always the reality for people, and I'm not kidding. I said to you, didn't I, Ree, if I had had an option of formula milk at some points during my pregnancy, and it had been there and ready, during our post-birth, I would have gone for it. It was hard. I had to push through 6 weeks. And then I was like, oh, this is wonderful. I understand what people talk about. 6 weeks, it was tough, and I really struggled. And the one thing I would say is nobody told me that. Nobody prepared me for the fact that that was going to be hard. So this time around, I'm very nervous about that, but I know if I work through probably 6 weeks, it will then be the easiest, simplest, and most natural thing, because that's what it is, ultimately.
Sorry,
Go for it.
So is there anything you should look for if you're buying milk, if you can't breastfeed? Or I don't know. I look at them all, and they all say obviously they're for newborn babies. But is there any ingredients or anything I should be looking for?
To be honest, the majority of them are all have to be fortified. They're all very, very tightly regulated, so they have to have a certain maximum and minimum amount of nutrients in them. Some of them have added in terms of things like probiotics. Or maybe extra omega-3, but ultimately the ones any that you can buy will be so tightly regulated, they will be as close to breast milk as one can get. So I would say I really wouldn't worry about it. Also, babies are all different. They tend to take to different brands. So, you know, some babies might try one brand and it might not really work for them, and they'll try another and they'll go, oh, that just worked brilliantly. So I would say try not to worry too much. They're all incredibly similar. Don't listen to health claims or, you know, the closest out of all of them to your baby's milk is not going to be. So just go with the one that you find that's convenient, and have a chat with your health visitor if you're unsure, because there's no specific one I would ever recommend. But
and a child could come out with different allergies or intolerances to different things. You don't know. I mean, there's lots of examples of people that are totally fine and have no difficulties of anything, yet their child is born with a dairy intolerance, or they can't stomach something else. It's a bit of trial and error, and it's very, very important that we all do discuss it. In terms of how you both intend to approach that post-birth period, do you have any must-haves, any tips, any advice, anything that you've heard that you've been told that you think would be useful to share?
You would have more than me, because I've got one. Do you know what, someone gave me a really good tip the other day. They said everyone's going to give you advice, especially when the baby arrives. And they said, learn the phrase, thank you so much, I'll bear that in mind. And actually, I've already used it quite a few times. Because already I have had oh, you are going to breastfeed, aren't you? And you are going to do this, and you shouldn't use this light, and you shouldn't have this. And you're like, oh, it's also scary and overwhelming as it is. But I think, that would probably be the best tip that I've had. And also, one thing that I didn't even think of, because it seems like such a happy thing, is everyone coming around to visit you. A sign on the door saying "Do not disturb" was recommended quite a few times.
This time around, I would definitely do that differently. I think we're such people that we were just like, yeah, everyone come, and we just had some people who just would not leave. And this time around, I 100% will be saying 2 weeks, maybe my mum and dad and his mum and dad, but other than that, leave us be, because I just overwhelmed myself, and I was shattered, and I was sweating because it was a heat wave, and I had milk coming out everywhere, and and I was so worried about my boy, and he was crying. I was thinking, God, what everyone's going to think, I can't do this. Give yourself time, because I definitely opened my doors too quickly for people coming in. Next time, do it differently.
It's the judgment. I think that's something we all fear in any walk of life, any situation, is what other people will think a lot of the time, and manage people's expectations. So they're very, very good tips. Now, I want to ask questions, if any of you guys have any questions about getting pregnant, being pregnant, post-pregnancy. anything at all, and this mic seems to be pretty good now, so thank you to everyone that turned their airplane mode on, because I think that's really helped.
Over here.
I can share.
Go for it.
So my question is, I'm in my 30s. Obviously, I haven't been pregnant yet, and maybe in the future. But is there like any kind of right time? Or I know that there's been a lot of stuff going on in my life from family members again, like yapping at me saying, "Oh, you in your 30s, you should really start thinking about having a baby." And at this stage in life, I'm kind of not ready yet. But also in the background of my mind is playing a bit of like, well, okay, well I am in my 30s. Shall I maybe start thinking about it?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And it's a bit tough because I would say that there are so many different things that impact your fertility, so much. So smoking, stress, lifestyle, activity, but actually age is definitely one of them. However, having said that, we know that women have babies way into their 40s successfully, and also we are incredibly lucky in the UK to have really good access to treatments like IVF, which do help lots of people who maybe have started later or who just aren't able to give birth for whatever reason to carry healthy pregnancies. So I would say that I think that there's no point in feeling like you're in a rush. You want to be in the right place to have a baby. But yes, with women, unfortunately, as nature is, time is against us, but we have lots of remedies for that, and we're very, very lucky for it. But look after your health, look after yourself, and I think that's the best that you can do. Don't rush into it.
We've all got friends. I mean,
When I went to Chelsea Westminster Hospital the other week, I was told the average age range was 40 of women coming in. So I guess it depends on the demographic and the different area of the country that you live in. I know where I'm from back home, everyone has children very young, in their early 20s. And up in London, it's all my friends in their mid-30s. So just be kind on yourself, but arm yourself with the knowledge that it's not easy for all of us. Some people, it's really a bit of a journey. So the advice I was given by Dr. Zoe Williams, which came on the podcast, was, well, if you don't try now, you never know. It could take you 3 years, it could take you 4 years, and by that point, if you wait till a certain age. So there's that side, and I want to be honest about that. But equally, we have a right as well to everything else. It's such a difficult climate. We do have a mic coming, it's all right. You don't have to shout from the back of the room.
My question is sort of about contraception as well, because I've been on the pill for 11 years, and I recently gave it up just due to concerns really of how long you should actually be on it, and didn't really think about that when I was sort of 18. Is there anything that you would recommend to like prepare yourself for the chance of future pregnancy if the contraception did have a detrimental effect? Is there anything you can do nutritionally wise or?
So we have a gynecologist coming on later to talk about the contraceptive pill. As far as I'm aware, and I've been told, it doesn't impact fertility in that way. However, it can take some people when they come off the pill a long time. It anecdotally took me 9 months to get my period back after coming off the pill.
But then some people, and I've seen it so regularly, some people come off the pill and think it's going to take them forever, and the next month they fall pregnant. So there is just no rhyme or reason to any of it, just like with everything else. So I would say, just work out when you're ready, and that's when, and be ready, to try and expand. And actually, to be fair, we're never ready. You probably don't feel quite ready to be a mum.
here you are, like,
Absolutely, the healthier you are.
be fit and healthy in preparation, because the minute pregnancy comes, you are relying on your past life.
Yeah, absolutely, I would so agree with that. So agree with that.
Rather than your
Get your stores ready now. If you're thinking about being pregnant in two years' time or a year's time, now is the time to really improve your diet, because those stores will mean that you can eat toast and pasta for 3 weeks or months.
Obviously, there's a lot on kind of pregnancy from a female perspective, but obviously it takes two to make a baby. Is there any advice that you guys would have for the male side of the process?
So I guess when it comes to fertility, actually a lot of the research is in male fertility, and a lot of the research points to males needing, ultimately a balanced diet, but a Mediterranean style diet. I've done a lot of research on this recently, and there's lots of evidence that men who eat plenty of antioxidants, plant-based proteins, tend to have better fertility rates. There are lots of vitamins and minerals that are specifically needed in terms of sperm quality. So when it comes to fertility, completely. But also, zinc, really important. There's lots of nutrients and lots of antioxidants as well. Again, really, really key in helping to create healthy sperm. During pregnancy, there's not much they can do other than be kind and supportive.
Equally,
Less smoking if they smoke, cut the alcohol. I would say that, it does make a difference. If a guy's been out drinking and then his sperm production, if you look at that 90-day cycle and he's had a very unhealthy period, it probably has reduced your odds and your chances. So it's important to both have to be fit and healthy. Okay. Right, well I want to close. I'm just asking you both a take-home food for thought. So something that I think maybe you both didn't expect about pregnancy, something that you think will benefit everyone, because coming at it from being online, particularly in Lucy's case where her every move is kind of followed, it's difficult now today, and for anybody in the room, what would be a good take-home message that you could give them?
Pregnancy, I would say for me, acceptance. I did eat a very beige, horrible diet at the beginning, and your hormones are raging, your body is expanding, everything's that was normal, your body, everything's different. And I think as soon as I sat back and said, right, this is the way it is, my life is going to be different, my body's going to be different, my diet is a bit different for now, and that's just the way it is. As soon as I accepted that, I had a better pregnancy, so that would be mine.
And I think I would say don't have any expectations. I think it's so hard for us to know what we think we're going to expect, whether that be from parenting or breastfeeding or pregnancy, but actually, life doesn't always work that way. So as I said, I came into this pregnancy thinking it was going to be so wonderful and great experience, and it's been tough. I've struggled for the last 15 weeks. So, I would definitely say try not to have many expectations and just let it go. I love your idea of going into birth without planning. I think that's a really great way of doing it, to be perfectly honest.
And then all the unexpected things that you don't think, don't be scared to ask or get help. So I had a case recently where I ended up in A&E of all places because I tried to just rest at home by myself, let it go and think, oh, it's fine, I don't want to disturb the NHS staff, I'm probably overthinking it. Thank goodness I went in, because if I didn't go in and listen to my gut instinct, it could have been bad. So if any of you ever have a niggling doubt, they would rather see you in your GP surgery or in your local hospital A&E than not see you at all. And I know that must sound very cliche, but please don't ignore your gut instinct at the same time. Well, thank you for sharing your experience, ladies, and we can now have another 3 minutes to be specific, little break and stretch. Thank you.